Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. The Ridgewood Village Council. This is a public workshop. The date is April 6, 2022. The time is 7:32 p.m. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by a posting on the bulletin board in Village Hall, by mail to the Ridgewood News, the record, and by submission to all persons entitled to same as provided by law of a schedule including the date and time of this meeting. Roll call.
Councilwoman Perrin.
Here.
Councilwoman Reynolds.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Seaton.
Here.
Councilman Vagianos.
Here.
Mayor Knudsen.
Here. Please join us for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join us for a moment of silence for all of our men and women serving our nation, our first responders, and all of those suffering in troubled times. Thank you. Before we move to public comments, it's my pleasure to introduce Dan Sachs, who is the owner of a new Ridgewood business, Scaled Microgrid Solutions. Dan's going to come on up, say a few words, say hello to Ridgewood, tell us about your business, give us all the information we need, give a plug to your website. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting us. I'm not the owner, unfortunately. I'm the controller of the business. Ryan Goodman is our CEO. Founder of the business. We started back in 2019. We are a private equity-backed firm that finally had the opportunity to open up a headquarters and space of our own right on South Broad Street. We share the block with Our Lady of Mount Carmel, so right on the, the southwestern corner of the block. The website, scalemicrogridsolutions.com. We are, it's a mouthful, a vertically integrated distributed energy platform. So I'll explain. We build distributed energy facilities. So a microgrid is a combination of solar panels, batteries, any other generators required to provide power independent of the grid to our customers. Our customer base runs the gamut from manufacturing facilities, community solar platforms, things of that nature, Bowery, indoor agriculture in Kearney, New Jersey, for example, the city of Bridgeport up in Connecticut. So a handful of different business structures. But a lot of information on our website, and we're excited to have our headquarters in Ridgewood. I'm personally excited. I grew up in Ridgewood, and we're excited to be here, and I appreciate the invite.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Lots of good luck.
Okay. With that, we will go to public comment, not to exceed 3 minutes per person for a total of 40 minutes. Please remember, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. Hans-Jürgen Lehmann, 234 Union Street. I simply do not understand the thinking of the majority on this council. It started with the dogged resistance to the renewal of a lease with Health Bond, an event that dragged on for many months before it was resolved in favor of a renewal. We were told of complaints by neighbors, but never told who the complainants are. Against those few complaints, the council heard the support for Health Bond from dozens upon dozens of supporters. Finally, the council did the right thing. Then came the pickleball fiasco. Once again, we heard from the council majority about complaints from neighbors at the courts, while supporters of pickleball inundated council meetings with their pleas for open courts. Once again, the voices of the majority of residents went ignored. The village was made to look silly on television and print media, and pickleballers still do not get treated like tennis players. For months, members of the public have asked this council to provide for remote access to council meetings. The requests are based on issues of accessibility for residents who may be unable to come to meetings for any number of valid reasons. Yet those requests were met with callous remarks by one council member about how easy it is to get into Village Hall, and another who tearfully rejected our requests. Hybrid meetings are being done successfully all over the state. The technology is there and proven to increase participation in council meetings. What is it about the council majority that makes it fear public participation? And again, just now, the council majority pitted itself against the restaurants in the central business district and the dining public, even when a petition signed by over 2,000 residents in favor of outdoor dining was presented to the council. The usual council majority voted to do away with the dining corrals. When our mayor does not like something, no majority of residents carries any weight in this chamber. You gave up guaranteed fees for those parking spaces against their possible use by village visitors and residents, people who predominantly come to eat in town and they do some shopping. Please tell me how this makes fiscal sense. Time and time again, this council majority has ignored the voice of the people and stood against the will of the people. How can you possibly call yourselves representatives in our democracy? Thank you.
Thank you, Hans.
Hi, Siobhan Cram, Winograd, 274 Ivy Place. For a long time in our village, all councils have struggled with balancing tradition and progress. You know, as a long-time involved citizen, I've seen it. And I think the fear in Ridgewood was always that progress would go too far, it'd be too developed and paved over. And for the first time in a long time, I'm worried we're erring on the side of an entrenchment of saying no. And the dining corrals was sort of what gave me pause. And I sat down with a paper and pen and sort of thought about that, because Ramon so delicately pushed some changes. Obviously, there were some things during COVID that happened very rapidly and we loved. But the dining corrals was a big, hard no, and I think most of the community really didn't like it. But the reason I'm using entrenched is because for me it's been thematic that you guys just instinctually say no to some things our towns has been presented with. So to start in no certain order, there's been no to CRAB, an anti-bias intimidation board, no to the Financial Advisory Board, which is a group of very accomplished professionals, an initial no to the library, no to the petitioners, not once but twice, no to the voters who voted in support of the petitioners, which is a direct no to the will of the people, no to pickleball, which is symbolic of the aging community, no to Kensington, in fact, no to pilots all around because we've never had one approach, initial no to Health Barn, no to hybrid, which, as you know, to me means a hard no to the accessibility of handicapped people, no to Shedler, no to baseball, and now because of the lack of field development, no to a significant number of youth sports. Last summer, a half no, which altered Ramon's beautiful pedestrian mall to half, and now the harshest no of dining corrals. What that means to me is clearly no to the 2,000 people who supported the signatures, but it means no to jobs, no to revenue, no to vibrancy, no to fun, no to sitting outside, having a drink, seeing your neighbors. It's just such an extremely harsh no to something that seemed so benign and fun. So I've given up on making no's yeses, making phone calls. I just think this council needs to take a moment and self-reflect and clearly valuing our traditions and where we are. You know, I'm a lifelong resident is important, but we need to find a way to be more favorable in some of these ideas that include more people. Dining corrals, hybrid, they just doesn't make any sense. So I encourage you guys to, if you want me to send you this list, I will, but look back at your own votes and try to figure out why you're saying no to so many of us.
Rorick Hallaby, 1 Franklin Avenue. Let me share with you more of my shopping experiences. Last week, my wife was hard at work at the stable garden, whatever gardeners do, clipping, trimming, cleaning. So she called me up and said, "It's such a beautiful day. Please buy a sandwich and let's have lunch together outside." I said, fine. I happened to be driving in Waldwick, so coming back, I thought I would stop off at the deli in Hohokus, free parking, easy to get in and out. I decided, no, I'm really loyal to Billy and Luana at the Chestnut Deli. I mean, they're such great people. I come to Chestnut Street. I find a place to park. I couldn't use my park mobile thing because my card has changed. So I went to the parking, whatever you call it. Now, it asked me for everything, including, basically my weight and my date of birth and my social security number. So I was able to get 24 minutes for 50 cents. I figured, why not? I'm a good friend of Bob Bruni. I'll make a contribution. Well, I walked in, and they were very, very busy. And so Luana was so apologetic, said, I'm so sorry. I said, look, I'm so happy for you, you're busy. So anyway, by the time I got my sandwich, it was almost like 24 minutes. Now, interestingly enough, across the street from the Chestnut Deli is a wonderful place called Namu, where my wife has bought many gifts for our granddaughters. And I figured, I might as well just go over and see if they have anything new, buy something for the granddaughters. Then I just told myself, to do that, I have to go back to the parking thing and spend another 10 minutes trying to figure out what to do. The heck with it. It isn't worth it. Now, a week earlier, I was up in Hohokus with my wife. No parking, no nothing. So we were walking slowly. She walked into a shop, paid a lot of money for a beautiful dress. What you're trying to do is discourage people from walking around town. You're trying to discourage people. This idea of park and stay doesn't exist anymore. So all the crocodile tears that are shed about the merchants, you guys are responsible for it because you don't do enough to encourage people to park and stay, including the dining corrals, which attract many, many people. And also, let us not forget that the garage was delayed by 5 years. Two of you did not contribute to the previous administration. If they had built the garage 5 years earlier, anyway, and
Thank
plus Lorraine
you.
Reynolds, who led
Thank
the charge
you. Mr. Hallaby,
for
thank you.
the referendum
Mr.
against
Hallaby,
it.
thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. Bob Furman, 49 Clinton Avenue. A few weeks ago, a council member made a comment that some people that come up to this podium have hidden agendas. So I don't know if it's paranoia on my part, but I believe that I might have been one of those people that it was directed at. So I just wanted to clear the air and let everybody know that I do have an agenda. And it's been out there for everybody to see for the last year and a half. And it's very simple. I want to see double the residents of this village vote so that our council represents the majority of registered voters and not a small minority. So I hope that clarifies it for you. Thank you.
Good evening. Ann Loving, 342 South Irving Street. I'm not here to complain. I'm not here to attack anybody. I just want to make that clear. I do want to address an issue regarding the businesses in the downtown that has nothing to do with parking and nothing to do with dining corrals. In recent history, there's been at least 3 instances where businesses were called to task by the Historic Preservation Commission and/or the Planning Board regarding the paint colors on their storefronts. One was Tito's Burritos with some dark blue paint. One was Race Faster, where they have a bright orange color, which is part of their logo. And most recently, the newly opened Bagelicious, where red paint is part of the trim detail. In each case, it seems that someone or some ones have taken it upon themselves to decide what color is appropriate for our historic downtown, and they found these businesses not to their liking. Now, I read through the Village E-Code and has also read through this interesting document, the Design Guidelines for the Village Center Historic District. I also spoke with 2 members of the aforementioned commission and board. Nowhere, I repeat, nowhere could I find a list of acceptable colors that the public can view, or even a vague reference as to what colors would be considered acceptable. I was told by 2 members that no such list exists, to their knowledge. Words that are used regarding store facades include harmonious, attractive, appropriate, and desirable. These adjectives are completely open to interpretation. I think it's counterproductive to tie up a new business owner in knots over paint colors. There are cities all over Europe that have brightly painted stores, and they're widely photographed, and they're on postcards and travel brochures. And these cities are actually a whole lot older than Ridgewood, so therefore they're probably more historic than Ridgewood. I was so happy to learn from Councilwoman Reynolds' report 2 weeks ago that Bagelicious' red paint was approved unanimously after discussion at the Planning Board. Race Faster remains orange, Tito's still has its blue. So the outcomes, therefore, are fine, but I think the process is tiresome and unnecessary. We all know that Bagelicious suffered tremendously when the business burned to the ground, and it frustrated me to learn that arbitrary hoops had to be jumped through prior to their reopening. I hope that moving forward, paint color is no longer going to be a part of discussion for new or even existing businesses. So this is, I don't know, what can be done about this. There's nothing in the code. Okay. By the way, my own subjective opinion, Bagelicious looks much better than it did by the previous.
Thank you, Ann.
Hello. Hello, Mayor, Board, Council. I'm here tonight. My name is Rocco Orlando. I'm a member of the
Can
village.
we have your name and address, please?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. 316 Allen Place, Ridgewood. I'm on the Board of Trustees for the library. I'm one of the members. And I just came tonight to just give an overview on some of the things we're doing at the library. So the library board is grateful for the council's support, which entitled us to maintain safety as well as top quality services in the village. Village Council's 2021 capital budget enabled the library to update important elements of the building systems, boasts the security coverage, as well as quick summary of and some of the things that we did. We have multiple HVAC units in the building. One of the units, which handles the entire first floor, had one of the compressors that broke, which was instrumental in trying to keep air conditioning and heating on the first floor. Part of the Village Council's approval of some of the funds helped us to repair that. Also, public safety. We added a PA system, urgent public notices, missing children, emergency evacuations, weather warnings, ice, power, flooding, standard closing announcements, etc. That work is currently in progress and should be done in May, so we appreciate the support there. And the third thing is added 3 security cameras in the summer of 2021 to better protect the public areas around the patio and also the lobby. So appreciate the council's support and the funding that we received. Thank you.
Thank you, Rocco, and thank you for serving on the Board of Trustees. Okay. Anyone else? All right. With that, we will close public comments and go on to our manager's report first. What? But I think that's after. Right? Am I
Okay. Yes, you're right. I do want to let everyone know that the Route 17 Park and Ride is now owned completely by, well, it's always been owned by the New Jersey Department of Transportation. It's now controlled by them. So at the moment, it says that anyone may park for free between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m., and that there is no overnight parking. I'm sure that the NJDOT will probably find out how they're going to charge for parking in the future, and I'm assuming they'll have signs up indicating that in the future. At the current time, however, people can park there for free. The Daffodil Festival and Earth Day Fair will take place in Memorial Park at Van Ness Square this Sunday, April 10th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. The theme is 2022, Act Now for a Green Ridgewood. This will be a special event. There'll be a petting zoo, green educational displays, water conservation project, 1,000 acres, importance of trees, electric vehicles and charging systems, children's activities, and musical entertainment, and a costumed Daffy Dog parade at 12:30. The Ridgewood 2022 Lifestyle Challenge is beginning. The program is free and open to Ridgewood residents. April 7th at 6 p.m., you can meet the community partners at Village Hall and learn what the challenge includes. It will include things such as fitness classes, pre and post cholesterol and blood sugar screenings, and then also there will be weekly email communications. April 7th, in-person sign-up or call 201-291-6090. April 11th is the deadline to sign up. Eastern Ridgewood, sponsored by the Ridgewood Chamber of Commerce, will be held Saturday, April 16th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Memorial Park at Van Ness Square. Come and join the Easter Bonnet Parade and Contest. Enjoy the music, arts and crafts, and the guest of honor will be the Easter Bunny. 10 warning signs of Alzheimer's presentation will be held on Tuesday, April 19th from 10:30 a.m. to 12 noon in the Annie Zuzi Lounge in Village Hall. Free, informative, and educational presentation. It's sponsored by Ridgewood Parks and Recreation and the Ridgewood Health Department. There will be a free lunch and giveaways will be provided. Registration is required at 201-670-5500, extension 301, or on Community Pass. The senior bus, I'm pleased to say all restrictions have been lifted, and it has a 12-passenger capacity, and we'll take reservations for that number of riders for the Tuesday and Thursday operations. Every other Wednesday operation, which is the second and fourth weeks, they go to ShopRite and Wyckoff. There'll be slightly less riders, so there's enough room for the grocery bags. A Parks and Recreation Summer Job Fair was held recently. If you missed this event and want to learn more about seasonal employment opportunities with the Village of Ridgewood, contact the Recreation Department at 201-670-5560. There's a recycling event for Bergen County residents, sponsored by Bergen County Utilities Authority, Sunday, April 24th, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., rain or shine, at Bergen Community College, which is on Paramus Road in Paramus. There'll be mobile shredding, electronics and computers, and unwanted medication collection. There will be a mobile shredding event here in Ridgewood on Saturday, April 30th by the Ridgewood Recycling Department. Further details to follow. And then Wednesday, May 4th, there'll be a ban on plastic and paper bags being given out by grocery stores. Please make plans to have reusable bags available for your shopping needs. For those planning ahead and are interested in an outing to the 2022 Philadelphia Flower Show, the Ridgewood Parks and Recreation is offering a day trip scheduled for June 13th. Further details and reservations can be made at Community Pass or in person or by mail to the stable at 259 North Maple Avenue. Radon is a radioactive gas that comes from the breakdown of naturally occurring uranium in soil and rock. It's invisible, odorless, and tasteless and can only be detected by specialized tests. The Bergen County Department of Health Services recommends that all homes be tested for radon. It's easy, and homes with high levels of radon can be fixed or mitigated. You can install a radon mitigation system yourself if you are highly experienced in making home repairs, or you can hire a New Jersey certified radon mitigation company to do the work for you. For a free radon test kit, please contact the Bergen County Department of Health Services at 201-634-2804. Please sign up for e-notices on the Village website to keep informed about Village events and timely notifications. Village Hall upcoming meetings are broadcast live from the Village Hall courtroom on the Village website and Channel 34 on FiOS, as well as on YouTube. Our next meetings, April 13th and May 11th, are our Village Council public meetings at 8 p.m., and April 27th and May 4th are our work sessions at 7:30 p.m. That's all I have.
Very good, thank you. Councilwoman Perrin?
Thank you, Mayor. Green Ridgewood, in addition to gearing up for the Daffodil Festival and Earth Day this Sunday, has also been going door to door to all the merchants downtown to let them know about the plastic bag ban that the state is enacting May 4th. And most of them say to us, but we only use paper. And we have been for years, and we explained to them that that was Ridgewood's ordinance, and now this is the state's new law. In addition to banning plastic bags, the carry-out single-use plastic bags, those clamshell things that for the styrofoam ones will also be banned, and straws were no longer allowed to be given out automatically if they were plastic, along with every drink as of November last year. The Open Space Committee has a tour of the Vallow Cemetery going on April 23rd. The rain date will be the 24th. That's at 1 o'clock, meeting in the cemetery parking lot opposite Old Paramus Church. And the Open Space Committee member, Yu Sun, is going to be giving the tour, and it will cover the history of the area as well as the flora and fauna. So that should be a lot of fun. Also, the Open Space Committee will be having its annual meeting along with the Parks and Recreation Conservation Board on April 21st here in this building at 7 o'clock in the Youth Lounge on the first floor, and the public is welcome to attend. The open space plan is being drafted by the Land Conservancy of New Jersey, and they welcome your comments as to what you think the needs are for our village in the future going forward in terms of open space, parks, and recreational facilities. And you can write your thoughts to the head of that, and the email is bhdavis@tlc-nj.org. The Chamber of Commerce hasn't met yet this month, but as the manager mentioned, they are conducting Easter in the park with the Easter Bunny. There will also be chalking on the sidewalk on East Ridgewood Avenue, which I'm in charge of. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The Central Business District Advisory Committee hasn't met yet this month. However, I did want to mention a letter that came into the council this week from Angela Ponticelli, and she wrote in support of continuing the dining corrals, and I'd like to read one paragraph from her letter. As a community, we understand the delicate balance required to maintain a successful CBD and respond to the needs of multiple different businesses. Whilst the 18 on-street parking spaces currently used for dining corrals are valuable to the entire CBD, the outdoor dining corrals contain approximately 150 additional seats that can be utilized by as many as 1,000 diners, depending on the weather. This additional footfall across Ridgewood CBD provides a great opportunity for all businesses, far exceeding the benefit of 18 on-street parking spaces, especially when considering the location of these spaces directly outside the restaurants utilizing them, and when measured by distance from the various parking lots that provide ample parking throughout the CBD. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Vagianos?
Thanks, Susan. Yesterday, the Fields Committee met, and the hot topic is, of course, the opening of Citizens and Vets Fields. So I'm going to give you the latest update. They've been doing lots of work on vets. The cold weather has slowed things down significantly, but Vets North is up and running, but Vets South and the Stadium Field are still currently closed. And here's the key. They're still shooting to get everything opened by April 15th on Citizens, Vets South, and the Stadium Field. This is all going to depend upon the weather. So keep your fingers crossed, and hopefully we'll get everything up and running by the end of next week. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Paul. Councilwoman Reynolds.
Thank you, Mayor. The Project Pride Committee met on March 31st. We welcomed 2 new members, Suzanne Willis, who is taking over the spot for the Women Gardeners Club liaison, and Dawn Tedeschi as a resident member. Project Pride will be having a table at Earth Day, which is this Sunday, April 10th, and we will be giving out native wildflower seed packets to anyone who volunteers as a helper with the various duties that we have available in Project Pride. So if you're interested, please come out, see our table, sign up to help, and get a free wildflower, native wildflower, which is very huge these days. Everybody's into the native plants. If you can't make it on Sunday and you want to volunteer for anything, please feel free to email me at lreynolds@ridgewoodnj.net. We also discussed various types of flowers that we will be planting in the flower pots along the east and west side of Ridgewood. New this year, we're going to have baskets that clamp around the light posts in Van Ness Square. So it's going to add a lot of color to the inside of the Van Ness Memorial Park. It's going to add a lot of color to the park, and I think it's going to be a great addition. Our next meeting of Project Pride is Wednesday, April 20th. The Planning Board met last night. We had a courtesy review of the Ridgewood Water PFAS treatment facility, which will be at 451 Goffel Road. This is a new facility on a recently purchased property adjacent to an existing pump room facility site. The properties are contiguous, and it's in a mixed-use area with a gas station on one side and a two-family residential dwelling on the other. The design and placement of the facility tries to emulate the look of a residential structure. The treatment room is disguised as the main building and the pump room as the attached garage. And I was so impressed with this. A lot of creative thought and planning went into this. The architects were great. I really love the design, and I think it's going to be a huge improvement to the neighborhood. It's going to be, I think, the nicest water treatment facility in the country. The facility is going to filter out the PFAS from approximately 7% of the water that is used by Ridgewood customers. And, well, actually Ridgewood Water customers, not just Ridgewood. And it's expected to be completed by the end of 2023. Also last night, John Barry from Higher Gruel came and gave us an update on the master plan document. The only element that has not been completed is the open space and recreation element, which is being prepared by a different team of professionals. You heard Councilwoman Perrin mention that. The draft plan was going to be released today, but it was decided that the best thing would be to allow the residents to view it when the entire document is complete and is in one place. So we will let you know as soon as the new schedule is updated. The Planning Board postponed the memorialization resolution for photometry, which is on South Broad, just because we had a couple of questions that needed to be clarified. We adopted the minutes for March 15th, and the next Planning Board meeting will be on April 19th. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing to report. That was quick.
Thank you for that. Okay, my turn. I'm up. First, I want to talk about that Planning Board meeting last night. I thought the new water department facility, that treatment plant, was absolutely architecturally beautiful. And it's really exciting to know that the $2.8 million federal STAG money is going to be put toward that. And so it's a shovel-ready project, and it's really important for clean water to remove PFAS. So it's an exciting project, and I think that I think the building is beautiful as well. Before I do my entire report, I just wanted to comment on the issue with the Historic Preservation Commission and those colors. And I think the issue for Bagelicious actually was the original application did not indicate that the entire top panel was going to be bright red. And as some know, the Historic Preservation Commission was actually out of commission right after COVID hit in 2020 because we didn't appoint anyone, so we had no commission. The Planning Board started hearing those applications. We were doing them there. The Planning Board actually heard the application from Bagelicious, and then the Historic Preservation Commission was reconstituted and started its work again, those members wanted to bring the Bagelicious application back because of the added red that had not been on the original application. I kind of made, because the planning board heard it initially, we brought it back to the planning board because they were familiar with the application. I think the planning board handled it well. I also want to point out that Bagelicious, I have to give the village credit that on every obstacle that was in the way of Bagelicious, the village really did a tremendous job helping all the way through, right up to the 11th hour when they ran into an issue with PSE&G, and we had to allow them to open the road. We suspended our road opening moratorium just so that they could get open. So I think the village did a tremendous job leaning in and assisting. In any event, last Friday we had our monthly Board of Ed Village Council meeting. There wasn't much to review. Superintendent Tom Gorman gave an update on the overall academic health of the student body as it relates to the COVID learning loss, which is a significant topic of conversation these days. Tom shared that resources have been made available to assist students in areas of specific learning loss. He reported that the overall issues remain largely insignificant throughout the district. And again, resources have been made available and will continue to be available for any students in need of extra help. We discussed exploring some additional shared services. We're going to be looking into some opportunities in the future. And also we discussed the Board of Education budget. We anticipate the Board of Education will present their revised budget on or about April 25th, and at that time we'll learn what rate they'll be setting. Friday evening, the Ridgewood Library Foundation, my mouse isn't working, so hang on, bear with me a minute. The Library Foundation hosted a donor appreciation event. It was a wonderful evening. Library staff was actually present to showcase some of the amazing technology funded by the foundation, including a really incredible virtual reality system that everyone should try. I know Councilwoman Perrin, I want to say, I think there's some photos of her, maybe some video. It was the look on her face was a look of amazement as she was traveling through somewhere. I don't know what were you?
Jumping out of an airplane.
Oh, you were jumping out of the airplane. Okay. I want to say that I did try jumping out of the airplane, and I couldn't do it, and then I tried the roller coaster, and I got really dizzy, and I had to rip the thing off of my head, and it was very upsetting, and I'm going to try again because Charles is going to help me. Anyway, everything from jumping out of an airplane, taking a roller coaster ride, or exploring the world beneath the sea. It was really amazing. Everybody should get over to the library and try that. And that amazing technology was as a result of the Library Foundation. So thank you to the foundation, and especially to the very gracious hosts, Shoshana and Leonard Feiner, for opening up their beautiful home. Let's see. Friends of the Ridgewood Library today hosted its 32nd annual author luncheon at Seasons. It was actually wonderful, wonderful, wonderful to be back in person. We've been off 2 years. 2020 was canceled. As some of us know, at the 11th hour, it was very last minute, and last year was virtual. So it was really wonderful to see everyone again, to see friends, to see so many residents and book lovers. The author, Jay-Z, right? It's like a hard J, almost like, right? Giazzi, yeah. Actually was so amazing and talented and gracious and very young. The New York Times bestseller. It included a meet and greet, book signing, and opportunity with the author of Homegoing and The Transcending Kingdom. So get out there, get those books from the library, and read because they're really wonderful. Tomorrow night, as we know, we'll be kicking off our Wellness and Lifestyle Challenge right downstairs in the Annie Zuzi room. Our health guru, our own village health guru, Dawn Citrullo, has been working hard to make sure our 2022 challenge is a huge success, so we hope to see everyone tomorrow night. And I just want to point out that Easter in the park, the Easter bonnet contest, I'll be judging. And I'm hoping that Councilwoman Reynolds and Councilwoman Perrin will help me because it's very difficult for me to judge anyone. I don't judge. Anyway, so that's really it for me. Oh, last thing. Please visit the 4th of July website, ridgewoodjuly4th.org, I think it is. You could just Google Ridgewood 4th of July. Take a look. We're really excited. 4th of July will be in full swing this year, and we'll be meeting next week. We're in place to do fireworks and a parade, everything. So we're excited about that. We encourage everyone to visit the website, stay on top of it, and I think that is it. And with that, we will go on to, I believe it's our
Eagle Scout project. Jack Swartz is here, along with Nancy Bigoso, Director of Parks and Recreation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It is my pleasure this evening to introduce to you Jack Swartz. Jack came to the Parks and Recreation Department probably about 8 weeks ago, inquiring about an potential Eagle Scout project. After a serious discussion and several considerations, he has chosen the refurbishment of Citizens Park as his project. Jack is a junior at Ridgewood High School, a Life Scout in Boy Scout Troop Number 4, and he is here this evening to explain his project to you.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me present tonight. My name is Jack Swartz. I'm a member of Troop 4 here in Ridgewood, and I'm hoping to work on my Eagle Scout project at Citizens Park.
Jack?
just lift the microphone up right there. Now,
Perfect.
talk into that microphone
good.
because not only
Closer?
do we need to hear you, everyone there needs to hear you, and we want the world out in TV land to hear you. Go ahead.
Yes. Because I only live a couple blocks from the park, it's had a huge impact on me since my childhood. And my goal of this project is to be able to give back to the park that has had such a big effect on me. I've played there, I've gone sledding there, I've watched my brother's baseball games, and enjoyed many other activities. I hope that through this project, I will be able to bring more beauty and appeal through the improvements I'll make. With the help of Matt Andruella and Nancy Bigos, I've created this plan to refurbish Citizen Park in 2 main areas. The first of these areas is at the corner of Godwin Avenue and South Monroe Street. There are 6 big, overgrown bushes that are unsightly, and the path in front of them is covered with dirt. With your approval, I plan on removing the middle 4 bushes, which would actually be done by the village, and cutting back the 2 big hollies on either ends, clearing the path, and re-landscaping the entire area. I've consulted with Rosler's Allendale Nursery on the appropriate plants for this location, and I found that mostly smaller bushes and plants and perennial flowers would suit the area well. The second part of my project would take place near the parking lot. I will remove the telephone poles around the edge of the parking lot that are falling apart, and the village, after consulting with Ms. Bigos in the Parks and Recreation Department, will replace them with more attractive and more effective barriers. Next, I will relocate the bike rack that is floating around the edge of the parking lot and add concrete footing to it so it is more permanent and theft protected. Finally, I will restore the bench that is at the top of the first hill. I will replace the missing and broken slats, repair any other defects, and clean it. I will do this with the help of my dad, who is an experienced and knowledgeable furniture maker. I will also remove the broken down existing concrete footing and relocate the bench to a place that better overlooks the park and make a concrete pad that is prettier and more permanent. My goal is to complete this project by the end of June. I will work on weekends in May and June with the assistance of my Boy Scout troop and other volunteers. I estimate that the total cost will be around $1,100 for all the materials, which I think is a very reachable goal. I'm not sure if you know this, but Citizens Park was bought in the 60s by a group of people that were concerned that the public area would be sold to developers to build more homes. They then donated the land to the town, and it was named Citizens Park in honor of the people who came together to create a public space for future generations like myself to enjoy. Regarding fundraising, I plan to spend the month of April fundraising by asking people who live around the park for donations. I hope that this piece of the park's history will be able to help others see the need to keep it beautiful so that we can enjoy its benefits for years to come. Unfortunately, I don't have a solution for one problem, which is to dispose of the old telephone poles which make up the barrier around the parking lot. Because they are coated in chemicals, they aren't easy to get rid of. I welcome your suggestions on how I could solve this problem. The goal of this project is to improve and beautify Citizens Park, and with your help and support, I hope that I can make this happen. Thank you so much for your time and consideration. I would be happy to answer any questions or concerns you may have.
Thank you, Jack, and I'm sure everybody may have questions, comments.
Wow. That's a big project. I actually have a son who's an Eagle Scout, so I know what's involved. And actually, there's a audience member, Rocco, who has a son who's an Eagle Scout as well, that did a very large project at the high school. So we know what's involved. I can't believe you really think 1,100 is going to take care of everything you spoke about?
Well, the price for materials is mainly going to be in concrete and other like smaller things, I guess, like hardware for attaching the bench to the concrete when it's replaced. And then the largest chunk is going to be through plants.
Okay.
It is an estimate, though. It could go over that or it could go under that.
Okay. What about, you mentioned you're going to be replacing a bench or two?
I'm going to be refurbishing the bench.
Oh, okay.
So it's right near the parking lot, and it's a bit back from the edge of the first hill there. And I would just be replacing the broken slats. I would be repairing the parts that have come detached,
Okay.
and then fixing the concrete.
Because I know benches are expensive, but I think it's a wonderful project, and I will donate $50 to it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You have the 50? Sorry. I just want to see her make good on it.
Yeah, you
Jack.
should get
I
it
don't-
before
somebody
she
says
leaves
50,
tonight.
Go up and get it.
I mean,
I'll
I'm
take
not
it now.
saying anything, you know. Jack, we are all so proud and so impressed, and we're so fortunate to have you in our community. You and I talked about this when you made the presentation to the Parks and Rec Committee. And, you know, the skills that you'll be putting into place from budgeting and fundraising to scheduling, recruiting volunteers. I mean, I know you told me it's going to take about 12 volunteers. You know, these are things that are going to carry you in your next venture and the one after that. So we're all really, really happy. And I told you, I gave you my number. I am happy to help you with fundraising. I'm happy to help you with your telephone poles that are coated in creosote. Give me a ring, and like I said, you know, we'll figure it all out. Although I'm sure you don't really need my help. You've got this.
Thank you.
This is very exciting. To see a young person want to be gardening and things like that is really encouraging. With regard to those telephone poles, have you contacted the village engineer, Chris Rudishauser? Okay, I think he will know where you might be able to dispose of those. For things that are contaminated like that, there's often a fee, so you might have to up your fundraising. So I'll match that 50.
Thank you. And thank you.
You have the money? Sorry.
Did the same thing.
Susan is all business. I like it.
Really, just bring over the money.
It's a very ambitious project, and it's I think it's sorely needed over there. So thank you for thinking about it and for stepping up for a larger community, because it's not just the residents in that area who enjoy the park, but there's a lot of Little League practices, and the hill's used for sleigh riding and things like that. So people all throughout the village definitely enjoy that park. So I look forward to it, and I wish you great success. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have to count out 50. I'm sorry. All right, hang on a minute. All right.
Are you allowed to accept
Are we allowed
cash?
to do that? All right.
Yes, you
Okay.
can.
I think so,
And
yeah.
you take cash. Just say, yeah, cash
Yeah.
is king. Okay, so Jack, amazing presentation. I look forward to this. I think it's a wonderful project. I wish you all the best with your eagle, becoming an eagle. Just for the record, and I hope this is okay with Nancy, if somebody would like to make a donation, can they just get Jack's information from you? So anyone out there who would like to help Jack, because this is a really important project, and we really appreciate it. So anyone who would like to help Jack, just reach out. Email our Director of Parks and Rec, Nancy Bigos, and she'll be happy to put our folks in touch with you. And I think you're going to have no problem. Yes, that's my 52. I made a donation.
I just want to say that cash on the dais here looks bad. I mean, I'm just saying. Just looks bad.
All right, it's okay. All right, so you have just right here raised $150, so kudos to you. So you're you're almost there.
Thank you so much.
So, thank you. Best of luck. Here you go. Come on up. And Councilwoman Perrin, I think, is... Oh, wait, we have more. Wait, what else?
Wait a minute.
Uh-oh. Wait a minute. Uh-oh. Oh, another 50. Oh, we have, let's see. All right, I have to put it all in order for you. I'm sorry, it's a little bit of a thing here.
And Jack, I'm not saying anything, but make sure you count it when you get it, okay? Just, you know.
This would drive me crazy that all the, okay, you can finish. Put everything in order so all the heads are facing up and facing forward. So good luck, congratulations, and very good. Great presentation, Jack.
I think Jack's coming to the next council meeting, too, by the way.
Come on back, Jack, it's fine. Okay, great. All right, with that, we're going to go on to our regular agenda.
Okay, so the first item is under Ridgewood Water. We have 2 refunds of overpayments of water accounts, and with both of them, Ridgewood Water will issue a refund after we adopt the resolution. The next one is the PSE&G Energy Saver Program Direct Install. As part of its New Jersey Board of Public Utilities approved Clean Energy Future Energy Efficiency Program, PSE&G is offering the Village of Ridgewood an Energy Saver Program based on a recent energy audit that was performed for the program. It assessed Village Hall lighting and HVAC equipment, and the request is to utilize the PSE&G Direct Install Program to replace old and inefficient equipment, as well as replace current lighting with LED lighting at Village Hall. The total project replacement cost is $146,586.56. PSE&G will contribute 77.3%, or $113,270.16, and the Village of Ridgewood cost will be $33,316.40, and it will be it can be financed over 5 years at 0% interest at $555.27 a month. So we'd like to get this approved so that we can get more energy efficient items in Village Hall.
So, and just that template's going to be corrected?
Yes, the resolution you had to the Ridgewood Water enters into the contract. It's going to say the Village of Ridgewood.
Okay.
Correct.
Very good, thank you.
Heather, didn't we just replace the HVAC equipment on the roof here? Like
We did, not all of it. And I don't think this is replacement. These are additions. So Dan Timoney is here from the Ridgewood Water Department.
I believe there's some replacements of some of the older equipment. So age was factored into the analysis. I believe it was most of the equipment installed around 2003 to 2008, I believe, was the focus.
Okay, yeah, because I remember approving new HVAC equipment,
Right.
but I didn't know if it was all of it or some of it. Okay, that's all I had.
Anything else? Okay. The next item is the authorizing the change order for the Passaic Valley Water Commission pipeline. This was originally approved on August 8th, 2018 for $149,175. The first change order was on July 17th, 2019, and that was in the amount of $10,000. And this one is an additional $13,508.75 in order to design a Department of Transportation compliant guide rail for the Diamond Brook. We're recommending that the change order number 2 be awarded to Suburban Consulting Engineers, Inc., who is the original vendor, and they are out of Flanders, New Jersey. Change order number 2 will increase the contract total to $172,683.75, and the funding is in the water capital budget.
Any questions?
Okay. All right. The next item is under parking. We're at grab-and-go parking spaces. So
Before we begin, I'm going to be recusing myself from this matter.
okay, thank you. So they came into existence during the pandemic. They're 15-minute complimentary parking on the side streets, usually the first 2 or 3 as you turn off of East Ridgewood Avenue. In November 2021, we extended them to April 30th, 2022. The cost is $1,500 per parking space for 6 months, and these were paid by sponsors. These spaces allow visitors to come to the CBD, maybe pick up food from a restaurant, go to a dry cleaner, go to a shoe shop, or go in and out of a store quickly within 15 minutes. So at this point, the council has to decide whether they wish to continue this program.
So can we get an inventory? I'm a little bit in a dark here because I don't recall how many grab-and-go spaces we had and where those locations are. So I think that
I'm going to have Councilman Vegianos come out of recusal because I think he knows the numbers.
I will give you the factual information without taking any position on anything. There are 4 parking spaces, 4 grab-and-go spaces on Oak Street. 3 of them are adjacent to Raymond's. One of them is in front of Leonard Anthony Cleaners. There are 4 on Chestnut Street. They're all adjacent to Blue Mercury. These are all diagonal spaces that are, as you're heading west on East Ridgewood Avenue, if you make a right on each of those streets, they're immediately on your right. And then there are 4 more on Broad Street in front of Dunkin' Donuts. And there is 1 on the west side in front of the old Playhouse building.
We also had designated one for Hudson Street, but we had no takers on that.
So do we have people that are willing to sponsor these 13 spots in the future?
Well, I know that Councilman Vegianos had worked on that, as did Councilwoman Perrin. And I think that most likely they could probably get sponsors again. I mean, I don't want to speak for them, but I believe they can.
So, for me, I would like a little bit more information. I need to know how many of these are 15-minute parking spaces. Out of this 13, how many are 15-minute spaces?
They all are.
They're all 15.
They're all 15.
No, how many are, so none of the regular parking spaces, so in other words, how many are actually designated by ordinance 15-minute?
Were you originally 15 minutes versus originally a
I'd have to
regular
see.
time
Yeah,
space?
so I think I need a little bit more, for me personally, I need a little bit more information. I feel like there's a benefit to having some. I think we maybe could scale it back a little because the parking space is actually, you know, revenue for us is revenue, but for me, I look at this and I think that we're losing on the actual face value of the parking spaces because what are they going for?
$250 a month?
$250 a month, so.
Yeah. $1,500.
$1,500 for
the
6 months.
Okay,
Right.
so 3, but they're actually have a higher, I think they're valued at 37, right? Total is the value of the parking space, and that doesn't count the and that doesn't count the repeat parking, the rollover parking. So I think we should get just an analysis from Bob Rooney, if that's okay.
Okay, we're going to run out of time. That's the only thing. So
we're just
we can arrange for a special public meeting on April 27th if we decide to move forward, and so that we get it done by April 30th.
Okay. So what happens if we don't finish it by April 30th? I mean, because we don't have a document to enforce it, I guess? We don't have a document to take funds, or nobody's paying it for the week or two, right?
It expires on April 30th.
Yeah, okay, all right. So why don't we just get the information as quickly as we can,
Okay.
and maybe we'll be able to wrap it up next week anyway. For me, I would like to see it.
Okay. Anyone else?
I'd just like to say that I think it is a welcome to people, and it makes people feel like they can find parking when they come downtown, so they're more willing to come and shop. So I think it is an important feature downtown.
Even if they're coming to shop, they can only stay for a few minutes. So
Right, you run in, you get your prescription, and you come back. I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? Okay. Yeah, by shopping, I mean you run in, you get your prescription at Town and Country, and you come out. Yes.
So I always find that when I use the grab-and-go spaces, I grab and go. But if I didn't use the grab-and-go space, I actually would go and shop more. So I think there's a trade-off there that may, in fact, hurt business.
Well, sometimes, I mean, I've done this. I'll go to the stop, to the 15-minute spot, and then if I decide I want to go try on a dress, well, then I'll go to one of the lots.
Can't try to dress in 15 minutes?
No.
All right, well, let's get more information.
I'm all for it as it is now, because, I mean, if want to go downtown and pick up food, I just want to go downtown and pick up food. I'm hungry, I want to go home and eat. That's pretty much it. I mean, if I see someplace else that I might want to stop in or shop on my way, then maybe I'll come back and, when I have more time. But I think it encourages people to just come down and utilize the businesses, utilize our restaurants, our dry cleaners for, just quick stuff. And it's a minimal amount of spaces, so I'd be okay with just, if the sponsors want to pay for it, then that gets more people into downtown. They could check it out. They could get what they need real quick, maybe have a good experience, and then come back. So
Okay.
I'm good with this.
So I just want to say that this number of spaces is actually 52 individuals an hour that are being encouraged to grab and go. So just doing the math on it, because 13 spaces times 4 in an hour, 15 minutes each, or it's actually more, but if you're even staying for the max at 15 minutes, that's a lot of people that are coming, jumping in, and jumping out. So I actually find that if you multiply that throughout the day, that's a lot of people, that's a lot of customers, and that's a lot of potentially lost transactions. So for me, personally, I just need to have a little bit more information on it. I am concerned that this, I think for me, I almost feel like we should scale it back a little so that we're not hurting some businesses on this, because it is, when you think about it, a lot of people coming in and just leaving immediately, if you do the math on it.
But I mean, my position on this has been the same since we started. If your plan is to come in and leave quick, then I don't have the time. I have something else to do. I don't want to saunter through downtown and spend time there. I just want to get what I need and leave. Then maybe when I do have time, I'd come back. But I've felt the same way all the way through. It's I think it's good.
Oh, well.
I just have a question on the, I question the dollar figure, because the meters are 9 to 8 every day, 5 days a week. I did
Right.
6 days a week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's 55 hours plus 9 on Saturday is 64. So now all my numbers are wrong. So it's $1.50 an hour to park on the street.
$1.25.
$1.25. So 64 times 125 is $80 a week. Times 4 is $320 a month, and these are being sponsored at $250 a month.
Right.
So we're losing
And we're losing the money on the rollover.
Right.
So
Right.
you have to add, I think on average, we add
20%.
It's actually more than that, but it's at least 20% more. So if you start to add it up.
So
it's-
20% is another 64.
That's presuming
380.
full occupancy, which I
Right.
don't think we really get, like on a rainy day or even on a weekday. Maybe you get that on a Saturday.
I
But
don't know. I've been going downtown a lot because of Project Pride and walking around, and like all the street parking is really taken up during the day. Not the parking lots, but definitely street parking. I would also agree, I do think 4 spots on Broad by Dunkin' Donuts seems to be a little overkill. Is that taking away from some of the other, not only restaurants, but businesses where somebody would park for a longer period of time? 4 seems like a lot. I don't know.
I haven't heard businesses complaining about the grab and goes.
Okay. And 4 by Blue Mercury, are they okay with that? Because Blue Mercury isn't the type of place where you're going to run in and run out in 15 minutes. Are they okay with 4 by them?
I think they suffer from several problems at once. So
Such as,
just, during the pandemic, people don't buy makeup,
okay.
that kind of thing.
Okay. All
I
right.
mean, why wear lipstick if you got to wear a mask?
That is true.
At some point, you have to take the mask off and look at yourself. All right. So, I mean, for me, I just need more information. I don't know.
All right, I'm fine with that if we can do a special public meeting and still do it in time.
Yeah.
Okay, we can do that. Okay, anyone else? Everyone said what they wanted to say, right? Just so I get all the information. Okay. The next one is under budget.
Oh, I'm sorry, Heather. Can we also get a list of the sponsors?
Sure.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Sure. The next one is award a contract under state cooperative purchase for tri-band Motorola mobile radios for use in the police cars. The radios being installed will give the ability to communicate with all towns and county agencies around us, including the ability to communicate on the county encrypted channels. The radios will be purchased under state contract. It's Motorola radio, care of Regional Communications of Paramus, New Jersey, not to exceed $31,517, and funding is through the capital account.
Okay. Anybody questions?
The next item is awarding contract for gasoline and diesel fuel under state contract, and this will be awarded to Hudson Tire Exchange. I'm sorry, am I on the right one? Nope. Hold on. Sorry, I'm on the wrong one. 1 second.
No, you're on.
Yep, it's stuck to the other one. Here we go. Sorry about that. Diesel fuel and gasoline. To the New Jersey State Cooperative Purchasing Program through Michelle's of Clifton, New Jersey, not to exceed $370,000. This is for all of the village vehicles.
I was not clear on how long this amount of fuel will last. Is this supposed to be for the year?
For the rest of the year, if it's not enough because gas prices are so high, we may have to come back later in the year and add to that. Okay, the next item is the tires and related supplies, and that's New Jersey State Cooperative Purchasing Program and the Somerset Co-op. It's Hudson Tire Exchange of Hackensack, New Jersey, and Custom Bandig of Linden, New Jersey. Funding is through the Fleet Services operating account, and it's not to exceed $59,000.
Anyone?
The next one is parts, materials, and supplies. This is for the village's Fleet Services Division. They're through the New Jersey Cooperative Purchasing Program, and it's through various cooperatives approved by the state of New Jersey. There are various vendors for various parts and supplies, and it's an amount not to exceed $580,000, and it's in the Fleet Services operating budget.
Heather, the products are identified by numbers. Could you give us an idea of what kind of parts and materials these are?
Sure, I can provide that to you before next week. Hold on, just write this down. Okay, the next item is award contract under state cooperative purchase for computer server and equipment for the village of Ridgewood and the new Ridgewood water headquarters. This is to Dell of Round Rock, Texas, not to exceed $251,980.87, and the funding is from the capital account.
This is for village employees and Ridgewood Water employees. Is this going to be divvied up between the two?
Yeah, it's for the new Ridgewood Water headquarters, as well as Village Hall. Dylan Hansen is here if he could come up and perhaps answer some questions.
Hello.
It's the payment part of it, and like, is this 50-50, or half going to Ridgewood Water and half going to the village?
It's a different amount of equipment, so at the next meeting, you'll see the exact amounts that will be applied to each of those accounts.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, the next one is another one for portable radios for the police department. These better interface with our radio system and have a newer technology. It allows a higher fidelity of transmission in higher noise environments. The purchase is part of a multi-year replacement program, and after this purchase, most of our officers will have the upgraded portable radios. This is under New Jersey state contract to Motorola Solutions, care of Regional Communications, Inc., not to exceed $13,799.20, and the funding, again, is in the capital budget.
Okay, questions, anyone?
How are these different from the other radios?
The other ones were car radios.
And are these body worn?
These are, that's a good question. I will find out. I think probably, because they are portable and that they can be heard in noisier environments. So my guess is yes, but I will confirm it.
That was my guess too, but
I will confirm.
Thank
Sure.
you.
The next item is the awarding year 2 of the contract for the lease for the Ford Explorer that's used by the Health Department. This is through Sourcewell to Enterprise Fleet Management of Wayne, New Jersey, not to exceed $8,000. It's through the operating budget of the Health Department due to the fact that they have some new staff, vulnerable population outreach coordinator, the COVID generalist, and the retired health officer hired through the state. It will assist in transporting them for outreach as well as various events.
I have a couple questions about this.
Okay.
Is this a vehicle we've already gotten or not gotten?
Yes, this is year 2 of a 5-year lease.
If it's year 2 of a 5-year lease, did we not obligate ourselves when we signed
Yes,
the...
but each year, with a multi-year contract, we award each year.
Got it.
Each separately.
Got it. And just going forward, do they need a Ford Explorer? Do they need a vehicle that big? Do they use it on a regular basis for that purpose, or do they just need more basic transportation?
They've done some events where they've brought things to locations, such as, I believe that they went to Ridgecrest for some of the vaccination clinics, or at least one I know of. And so they brought some of the materials there. I don't know, everything that they use it for, but I could certainly find out.
And what other vehicles do they have?
I would have to check that.
And
I don't know if they have anything else assigned to them, because we have pool vehicles.
Yeah,
There are certain vehicles that people use traditionally, but truly they're pool vehicles, and we did that decades ago.
Yeah, and I think my questions really are, do they need a Ford Explorer, a vehicle that is this expensive and also uses that much gas? Mm-hmm. Could they not make it with a small SUV, with a regular passenger vehicle? If they occasionally need a larger vehicle, if we have pool vehicles, couldn't they use one of those? You know what it is? I see a lot of Ford Explorers in our fleet. Mm-hmm. And listen, I think that's terrific, and I know we need them for lots of things. I wonder if we need as many as we have going forward, which is why I asked, all right, we've already got this, we're obligated to it, but I'd like to have a larger discussion about our fleet.
Sure.
At a not too distant council meeting, maybe in the next month, to analyze, the use of these vehicles. I mean, everybody wants one of these to drive, but do we need them? Do we need them for the police? Do we need? I mean, I see a lot of Ford, or what I perceive to be a bunch of Ford Explorer police vehicles. Mm-hmm. I wonder.
I just want to remind you that SUVs can be put into the capital budget while regular vehicles cannot. They go into the operating budget. And I just want to make you aware of that, and that's part of the reason, but also, especially for police, they are out in all types of weather. And certainly SUVs are safer than a whatever vehicle you want to pick.
And again, that's why this is a larger discussion. I did not realize that you could put them in the capital budget. Not that is necessarily defining, because it's still village money.
Oh,
so,
I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and all I'm saying is, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't have every one of the Ford Explorers that we have. I'd just like to take a
a more careful look at this.
And also, obviously, we're going to look at electric vehicles or hybrid vehicles going forward
Absolutely.
as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's something we're committed to doing. You know, some of the vehicles that we have, especially the larger trucks, right now there aren't really good, reliable hybrid or electric vehicles. However, they're going to develop better and better as we go on in years.
Yep.
So it's something we'll look at.
Yeah, if you could put this on your never-ending list of things that we've all given you, so that we could take a good look at this, I appreciate it. Thanks,
Sure.
Heather.
I'm sorry, can I just ask for a little timeout because I'm having a little IT issue? Sure. And I need a little help. I'm sorry, you can ask your question, Pam.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that at the League of Municipalities conference on EV fleet transition, they were saying that the Ford Explorer, or was it the Ford 150, is coming out as in a hybrid format, but wait a year. And so we will be waiting a year.
Yeah, that's probably a wise decision, but certainly it's something we're committed to going forward. Any other questions specifically about this Explorer? Okay. Okay.
All right, he's just going to see if he has another cable, but that's okay. We can continue.
Okay.
Just give me
So
one.
the
You
next
can
one
have
is
mine.
You don't know it's a different cable. It's a special cable
Oh,
on here.
she's got a mayor cable. I got it.
The next item is actually related to Mr. Hanson again. This is purchase of computer equipment on state contract. This one is to SHI International Corporation of Somerset, New Jersey, and that's $45,006.30. And the funding for that is in the capital budget.
Any questions, anyone?
So the next one, I don't know if you want to wait, Mayor, but the next one is actually yours and Mr. Rogers, designating the Valley Hospital property as an area in need of redevelopment.
I'm sorry?
No, you want me to go ahead?
Yep.
Yeah, you know what, and actually, if Dylan's looking for a different cable, but I can work with this for now, so go ahead. Let's just keep.
Okay. This is a resolution to be considered by the board. It is the opportunity of the council to decide whether or not the redevelopment criteria for the Valley Hospital campus has been met. There is a recommendation that has come over from the Village Planning Board that states that, yes, they feel that the criteria has been met, and they recommend to the council that we adopt this resolution. This resolution is consistent with the settlement of two aspects of prior actions. One is the lawsuit involving Valley Hospital and the Village of Ridgewood, and the other is our fair share plan with regard to providing affordable housing in the village. This property, because it was going to be sold, was ordered by the court to be included in our affordable housing component in this third round. And as a result of the discussions that took place between the parties, Valley Hospital, Fair Share Housing Center, the special master, and the village, it was considered that this would be an optimum method of trying to provide affordable housing in on that campus if and when this campus ever frees up, and that it would provide the village with the best opportunity to try and take into consideration those issues that we took into consideration when we were challenging the expansion, and the issues that Valley Hospital has, the issues that Fair Share Housing Center has, and it was also thereby reviewed by the court and approved by the court. So this is that next step that takes place in regard to the process of declaring this Valley Hospital campus on Linwood Avenue as an area in need of redevelopment. There are advantages to this. I'm hoping everybody is aware that there are advantages when you deal with an area in need of redevelopment rather than just zoning, because there's a greater opportunity for the village to participate in the design and in the appointment, possibly, of a developer to work this site if, again, this site ever becomes vacant or no longer needed for healthcare purposes to be decided by Valley. And so it could be tomorrow, it could be 20 years down the road. But at least this is will be part of our zoning component. And then the next steps after this are trying to determine a process and a design for the development of affordable housing and other housing on this site. And that's what this is about.
Okay. Any questions, anyone?
I have a few questions, and I'm new to this process, so please bear with me. Is the goal of this so that we can provide more affordable housing? Is that the plan?
Yeah. As I tried to say, and maybe I didn't say it clearly, when we were going through our process of dealing with our third round requirements for affordable housing, the issue was brought up. The court felt that this property needed to be included because at that time Valley Hospital had noticed that it was going to be moving its hospital over to Paramus, and that this may free up at some point in time. This is a large tract of land, and was going to be considered for affordable housing. So the development that's going to come on this property, when it is ever freed up from being used as a healthcare property, would be considered for affordable housing, and we can set the parameters of development of that affordable housing component when that time comes, and we can set those parameters. That's our next step, is to do that. But
Right. So that's really the trigger, is the affordable housing. That's why
that's what we're doing here.
Got it. And so we don't have any developers who are interested in doing this now. We don't think that the hospital at the moment, because you said whether it's next year or in 20 years. So I gather that means there's no one waiting in the wings.
No one's called me, for my opinion. So.
Got it. They have your number?
I doubt it, and I'm not ready to give it up. No, I'm only kidding.
And has the planning board had this discussion about what they'd like to see there?
I don't know that they've had the discussion. I have to ask members of the planning board about that, but I don't know that they've had the discussion about what they'd like to see or how it's going to be designed. What they did already now, and with regard to the report back to us, was that they decided that the property met the criteria that's needed for being qualified as what we call a non-condemnation area in need of redevelopment.
And I'll add that as this conversation was happening, I think it's fair to say that Fair Share Housing was receptive to the idea that this is a property that's in a single-family residential area and that it is adjacent to a school. And so they actually were appreciative of the attempt, the effort, that if this happens sometime down in the future, that the type of development would have design elements that would be consistent, but while allowing for that affordable element. So I think it's a good outcome.
Yeah. We made it very clear about what our concerns were with regard to any development on this site in the future. And as the mayor pointed out, those were those concerns. And Fair Share Housing Center, which is the advocate for affordable housing in the state, was receptive of that and certainly considered it and agreed to it. So.
Right. And I open this question because I know you're both on the planning board. So to anyone who wants to answer these things, is the next step a redevelopment plan?
Yes. I mean, that technically is kind of the next big step that's going to happen with regard to
Is that going to happen following the council's adoption of this resolution?
Yes. It can't occur until after this resolution is adopted.
Right. How long does that generally take?
I don't know if there's any general time period for that. I mean, getting it started is going to be probably up to the council to see how fast you want to get after it. and then it goes through a process. It's got to be vetted at the planning board. It gets vetted here at the council. It could take any number of months before it comes around to a full plan.
And then do we designate a redeveloper, but that wouldn't happen, that might not happen for 20 years?
And that may not happen until there's an opportunity for the property to be developed. There wouldn't be any sense to do it now. So.
Got it. Thank you.
And I just want to, I'm sorry, I just wanted to say that Valley Hospital actually has always taken a position that their interest is in maintaining outpatient services from that location.
It's a
so
big facility for outpatient services. So.
Yeah, I think they,
well, as part of the,
I know that that's their position, and that's why I think that it sounds like this is the right way to go. That there's a reasonable chance that at some point they might move on from this property, and I get it. I'm just trying to. You guys have been involved with this for a while. I'm just trying to wrap my arms around it.
I would say that based on this investigative report, I'm all in favor of this resolution. Mm-hmm. And my question is, with regard to the redevelopment, including affordable housing, does it preclude rebuilding with open space? Like, say there were new housing built. Is it permissible to have some open space area in those 15 acres?
in fact, it is a component of affordable housing development that open space areas be preserved. You need to be able to provide that in your plans. So
Great.
It's one of those components.
That's what I want.
Exactly how much to be determined, but there is open space is a consideration.
and again, it was part of those conversations with Fair Share Housing, and they were just very, not only receptive, but I think they were appreciative of those efforts. So I think that it's a good outcome.
And I have another question unrelated to the actual plan. I noticed that the roll call vote on this, and correct me if I'm wrong, there were 9 members and 2 alternates. There were 4 that voted in favor and 2 abstained.
Right. So there was a quorum available. Myself and Councilwoman Reynolds, I believe we abstained from those because we know it's coming back here for a vote. So there are certain things that we are required to step away from that we just abstained.
Got it. I'm curious. I mean, this seems like a relatively significant piece of work from the planning board. Why, if we have 3 other members and 2 alternates, do we only have 6 people in attendance, 6 members?
Yeah.
Or am I missing something?
No. So what is the date on that?
That was February 1st.
Yeah, I don't recall.
Or date approved February 1st, date resolution approved March 1st.
Yeah, so it would have been the vote was February 1st. So we'd have to go back and look at the reasons that, there are occasions where, something happens and...
Oh, listen, certainly,
Yeah.
but is that typical that we would only have 6 or 7 members?
No, last night we had almost a full house. We had one person who had a dishwasher overflow before she...
Okay, no, I just, that gave me concern
Yeah.
because this isn't, putting a deck on the back of a house.
So, yeah, no, we typically have fairly good attendance. Yeah, it just
Okay.
may have been like a
Great.
outlier.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so we're ready to move forward for next week? Okay. The next item is the flood acquisition plan. So the Land Conservancy of New Jersey has prepared a flood acquisition plan report. This is a confidential report and not a document available to the public. It was a result of a study made possible through the Land Conservancy of New Jersey, Rutgers Cooperative Extension Water Resources Program, County of Bergen, on a shared services contract basis. It costs the village nothing to have the report prepared. This will, if we accept the flood acquisition plan report, it will allow the village to apply for grant funding for acquisition of severe repetitive loss flood-prone properties through Bergen County funding. And actually, if that is done, those properties are then made into passive open space. So that's basically the prelude to it, and then we just need to discuss if we're going to accept or approve the flood acquisition plan to allow us to apply for the grant funding if we so choose. It does not obligate us to do so.
Okay. We're good? Everyone's okay?
Good.
Okay, so we'll have that on for next week. The next item is the supporting A2426, the bail reform measures. And then let me just also say, supporting reforms to the Attorney General's vehicular pursuit policy.
Okay.
So I know this came out of the Northwest Bergen Mayors Association, so Mayor Knutson.
Okay, I'm just going to step away from this one. I just think better.
I understand.
that I can.
Okay, sure. So for the bail reform, hold on one sec. Basically, as we know that it changed a few years ago at this point, and it's basically it's basically been the release pending trial of individuals charged with serious crimes, and those individuals being accused of the commission of additional serious crimes to person or property. And basically what's happening is that they are being apprehended and then released. And part of it is equity, because it was determined that some people have more money to pay for bail where others don't. And so those who had the money were able to make bail, and perhaps others who didn't have that money were not able to do so. So this is basically asking the legislature to adopt the provisions of A2426, which is basically to reform that bail system so as to prevent persons charged with serious crimes to persons or property from being permitted to engage in additional criminal activity while awaiting criminal proceedings. So this has obviously made it difficult for police departments throughout New Jersey, because many times criminals are apprehended, or people who have committed serious crimes are apprehended and put into jail, and within a few hours they're out again, and perhaps even commit another crime. So this is a request to urge consideration of a bail reform bill that's in the Assembly.
I think I'd like to see the
Sure.
bail reform bill that we're talking about.
Sure.
I mean, it certainly sounds like we're going down the right path, but I'd like to see exactly what it says.
Yeah, just so you know, the amendment that's being proposed has to do with a rebuttable presumption that people who are charged with firearm violations are not part of the release program under the Bail Reform Act back a few years ago. So this is an attempt to try and take care of that loophole so that the courts have the authority to be able to maintain incarceration for those who have firearms charges, or at least on a rebuttable presumption basis, be able to do that. So I think it's probably worthwhile to look at the whole act itself anyway.
Yeah, and like I said, it certainly sounds like somebody who's charged with firearms possession violation is somebody who we'd likely want to keep incarcerated. Like I said, I'd just like to see the bill that we're talking about.
Sure. Okay.
I would say that absent actual data on recidivism, I'm not in favor of us at the municipal level signaling our support. When the Criminal Justice Reform Act came in, there was a very thoughtful matrix that was given to judges and lawyers, and we all had training on how you apply these matrices. And I don't want to undercut that without really hard evidence. So I'm not in favor of this.
I'm in favor of it, so, criminals should be locked up. And bail reform's kind of made a mess of police work in general from what we've seen in the past few years. So anything that we could do to correct that, I would be all in favor of.
These are people who are charged. They have not been convicted. This is pretrial detention, and And this second resolution, I'd point out, is asking us to undercut the Attorney General of the state of New Jersey's current guidelines. That's the top law enforcement officer for our state. And those guidelines are very detailed, and without more evidence, I would not be in favor of this.
Well, let's deal with one at a time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Right.
fine.
Yeah, and listen, I think Pam's point is very well taken. There is the reason this was put into place was clearly because people who have money make bail. People who don't have money don't make bail. It has nothing to do with guilt or innocence. I want to see this, how narrow this rebuttable presumption is, that it applies, what it applies to, how it's applied, because certainly there have been issues with bail reform. Doesn't mean we shouldn't have it. It usually means that when legislation like this is passed in a sweeping manner, that maybe they got it 60% right or 80% right, and maybe it needs to be tweaked. This might be one of those tweaks, but I want to take a close look at it.
I'm for it.
Okay. We'll get you the bill. The second one, basically, from what I'm gathering from this, is that it reconsiders the portion of the vehicular pursuit policy of its use of force policy in order to permit local law enforcement officers the discretion to pursue individuals suspected of having engaged in crimes relating to the theft of automobiles. I can tell you that from our police department, I actually heard a story where the police department was there. They were watching people in a driveway. They saw them getting into the car because it was unlocked. They went to get out to stop them, and the perpetrators took off. They did follow them as far as they could follow them, and then the people in the stolen car went faster, and our police could not pursue them any longer. So they actually saw it occur, saw it happen, and could not stop them because they could not pursue. And I know the mayor had asked at one point, well, couldn't you put a blockade at another town or another street? And they're not allowed to do that either. So, I mean, I think that with this, it's pertaining to, from what I'm reading, having engaged in crimes relating to theft of automobiles and allowing the police to pursue them, if that's the case. Obviously, at times pursuits are high speed and maybe not necessary, but in the case where they can't do anything, and I can tell you that those who commit these types of crimes are well aware of it, that they cannot be pursued. And because of that, it makes it very difficult for police to try to enforce that type of law to stop criminals in that type of act.
Listen, when I first heard about this, I was surprised. What I would like to do, this is such a dramatic step that was taken to say that there will be no more police pursuits, that there must be some significant data to support that. Before we vote on this, I'd just like to see that data. I mean, there's clearly data showing, how many car chases, how many injuries, how many accidents, how many deaths. To vote on this, based upon a couple of anecdotal stories, I'm sure there's a couple of anecdotal stories saying, yeah, somebody was a pedestrian on a sidewalk doing nothing and was killed in this. Those don't really, neither side tells us anything. I'd love to get the data that the Attorney General relied upon. I'm sure it's available so that we can make it a better informed decision.
The only thing I can add is that police pursuit and the policies that have gone into place in many states, including New Jersey, has been an issue for a long time, and they've tried to correct it, and it actually is kind of a fluid thing in a sense because it changes at different times. And the other thing that the council should consider is whether or not supporting bills or putting your name out there to support bills is the right thing to do under the circumstances as well. And you can see, because we don't have many of those that come through here, that we are asked to be supportive of. So that's another consideration for the council when you approach these. It may, you may be in favor, you may be against it, but collectively as a council, do you want to take a position?
I don't see any problem with the Northwest mayors lobbying Trenton on this. That might be a better avenue.
Yeah, but that's up to you guys, and you guys are going to get some data and some information, and you get to decide whether you want to get involved.
If you all want the Attorney General guidelines, I can provide those to you.
I'd like to see whatever. Again, I'm assuming it is not a treatise. That it is relatively.
I have a feeling there's a lot of discussion that's gone on with regard to this. I don't think it's come from a knee-jerk reaction. So there's probably a lot of data and information out there. So
sure.
What we have to do is, I bet you Google it, and then Pam can probably get a hold of it. I think you can get a hold of it in different places. So there's probably a lot of information on it.
Okay.
Thanks.
So the next item is the Central Business District empty storefront displays.
And I'm going to recuse myself from this matter.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, I'm having some technical difficulties, but okay, here we go. I'm really excited about this. One of the things I've been talking about for quite some time is requiring empty storefronts to have a display that's visually interesting and not just craft paper and blocking. And the primary reason is because we know that that broken windows theory, once one looks like a certain way, another one looks a certain way. And I've actually been overly enthusiastic about Councilwoman Reynolds' Project Pride, and this kind of ties into that. So Mary Ann Bucci-Carter, our planner, was kind enough to draft an ordinance just as a starting point, and with that, I'm really just struggling here with this screen, but sorry. Everyone can read it. I think that if we look at B1, I think that shouldn't be requiring displays shall contain local artwork, local school projects, or cultural, historic, interpretive displays consistent with window display requirements, or just displays with visual interest. So it could be product displays, it could be pop-up shop, it could be something that somebody else thinks, an owner thinks is a visual interest. But I think it's really a good idea to start to have our empty storefronts, which some have been empty for quite some time, at least hold their feet to the fire and require them to be consistent with our historic central business district. So,
I ran this by two of the landlords who are in the Central Business District Advisory Committee, and they loved it.
good.
They thought it was
did
great.
Yeah.
In fact, one landlord, Stacy Tsapataris, said that by having an art installation in the storefront that was empty in her building, she thought she drew new tenants.
Right.
That it really had a good effect. I have some comments about the structure of this, but maybe that's not for tonight. Maybe the wording.
Yeah, no, if you want,
but the concept's great.
Yeah, and if you want to just email any changes, just that's fine. Any suggestions, send them, and then I'll just give it back to Mary Ann, and she can incorporate it back into, whatever our comments are. I think it's important. I actually made that little note, displays with visual interest. It didn't have to be, local artwork, local school projects. It could be somebody else's, idea of, it could be somebody's couch that's just pretty, right? It could be, sometimes you get something really cool and it's interesting. The other piece of that, and it's the next part, is a registration form for vacant storefronts. And we found that this would be the tie-in so that we could monitor how long these storefronts are empty. We found these documents. A number of different municipalities have these. They also come with a fee. We did not assign a fee to it to register. We didn't think that was necessary, but we thought it was important at least to have some inventory of the empty vacancies. So I don't know if anybody had a chance to read it, but it's I'm actually, I think it will take all the feedback we can get so we make it a solid ordinance.
Right. No, I like this. The only thing I would want to change, where it says lack of tenancy for over 3 months, then you're required to install the window displays. Me personally, I think 3 months is a long time. It's
Yeah, I
90
agree.
days. It's too much. You don't want to see anything vacant and, with craft paper or whatever for 90 days. I think 30 or 60 is more appropriate.
And would we want to say, unless they have like a incoming tenant, I mean, somebody might become vacant.
Right.
And then almost immediately following, they could have a new tenant coming in. So if they just have a short-term, if they have a 60-day vacancy, but they have somebody already lined up, I think the point is that we just don't want to see these vacant stores for
Right.
these extended periods of time with these cavernous, empty spaces.
That would be fine.
Okay. Well, we can make it a guideline.
Here's one thing I was thinking of. What if a storefront could have a big poster that said, all the upcoming attractions at the Cash House Shell? Would that come under cultural displays? Because I
Yeah, I
think it'd be
mean, I guess-
nice to, advertise what's at the Cash House Shell.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if we had like a really nice, almost artsy photo of the shell, and then underneath it, so that it doesn't look like an advertisement, we want to have it like, have some visual interest, so we don't want it just to look like advertising, but I think there's a way to absolutely do that.
Okay.
And
'cause-
I guess we would ask, the different, our own different committees in-house,
Yeah.
what, if they have an interest in participating in that.
And then I'd like to talk to the Ridgewood commercial property owners, get more input from them, let them know this is coming. And I'm wondering about other kinds of advertising. Say, for instance, the tobacco shop wanted to put up a display further east on East Ridgewood Avenue of a nice wingback chair with a rug, with a hassock, with, a book on a table and a box of cigars, to advertise their store.
Yeah, no,
An
I think if they
attractive
can.
scene or setting.
Right, I think if they can coordinate it even through the Chamber of Commerce, I think that that's an option. All I know is that somewhere, no matter how they coordinate or organize, somewhere somebody has got to be able to implement and enforce that we're not going to see windows covered with craft paper and these for rent, like half-written for rent and faded signs, and these big cavernous empty storefronts without holding their feet to the fire, because it's really, it is, not only is it, does it degrade the central business district, but it hurts other business owners. It absolutely hurts other business owners. So I think our efforts, however we get there, whatever, if somebody wants to say, I can use your space and do this, that's fine. I think for us, in order to create some structure to an ordinance, we have to have something in place that at least sets some guidelines, so that if somebody wants to add the easy chair and this, box of cigars, which would be adorable, and visit, the tobacco shop, I think it's adorable, but that could be something they can organize then, through the chamber or something.
And then the landlord maybe could gain some income from it, even.
Right.
So, I think it's great.
Okay. So I would hope, since we might have a special public meeting anyway, if we can get our act together, and if everybody can kind of put their input to Heather and just copy me individually, and then we can get it to Mary Ann and refine this so that we could at least start to get an introduction and hopefully have this in place, maybe by the summer, and we, that will really help us in the central business district.
Just one of the words that I read was attractive, and I think that's very subjective.
Yes,
I think
I
what
agree.
may be attractive to me may not be attractive to you. So maybe there's another word we could use. But I think visually, visual interest is, certainly something good.
Is attractive, you know what, I think that we, Did Marion use the word attractive?
Yeah, in the
I
first
circled it also.
couple of places, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I like visual interest, I agree, but even visual interest is, it's all in the eyes of the beholder. So I think that if we can at least get there, at least have something in place, I think that we'll get there. There's a piece, I think it's from one of the Hamptons, it's a, off-season storefront guidelines, and we can send that around, and so everybody understands, especially for Councilwoman Perrin. I think that this will help her, and actually for Councilwoman Reynolds, too. So you kind of see what they're doing. So I think it's just a benefit. So, okay.
Okay. The next one is endorsing a community development block grant for Share Inc. They have two. One is for air purifiers, and the other is for kitchen renovation. So, as you know, these are community development block grants, which the village council would endorse, but they don't obligate any village funds. The first grant is for the Prospect Street and Cottage Place share houses to purchase and install air purification systems, which will continuously disinfect living and working environments within these resident homes. The cost for that is $99,000. The second grant is for COVID-19 preparedness, which will allow them to purchase disposable gloves, utensils, and food containers, as well as removing cabinets and replacing them with open-air shelves to keep kitchen tools clean, dry, and free from germs. Also purchase plexiglass covers to enable communication with their residents without masks. And then finally, to have their staff trained on the latest CDC requirements regarding proper cleaning, disinfection, and handling of food for the elderly, and the cost for that one is $7,000. So as long as the council is agreeable, we will adopt both of these resolutions on behalf of Share Inc.
Okay. Any questions? We're all good?
Nope, good.
Okay. The next item is under operations, no left turn restrictions on Franklin Avenue, North Maple, and Linwood Avenue. So the new multifamily housing project at East Ridgewood Avenue and North Maple Avenue is almost complete. As part of the Bergen County Planning Board approval, several no left turn restrictions were required to be installed. Mr. Reddishauser, when he went out, also observed a no left turn sign at the exit drive from Mavis Tires, as well as from westbound Franklin Avenue into the store's driveway. Basically, this no left turn ordinance will memorialize the signs that are there, as well as the ones that he observed while he was there, which at this point do not have ordinances to back them up.
Yeah, this was actually, some of these no left turns came up at the planning board level, so it was part of the recommendations way back when, and I guess the county had to weigh in on it, and maybe we just never got back to it. So it was a little surprising to see we never memorialized it, but okay.
Okay. The next item is amendment to the solid waste ordinance. There are actually two amendments within this. One is if unfavorable collection conditions along a collection route exist, residents must bring their rubbish containers to the end of their driveways until the conditions have been improved. This could be snow, ice, maybe there's tree limbs down, whatever it might be. This will just make it easier, obviously, and safer for our employees to pick up the rubbish and refuse. The other one is placement of garbage and rubbish containers cannot be placed before 5 p.m. the day before or after 6 a.m. the day of the collection, and they must be brought in from the curb by 11:59 p.m. on the day of collection. We do have some residents who have a garbage can at the curb and bring their plastic garbage bags out twice a week and never move the can from the curb. So we do have rear yard pickup still, but there are some that bring it to the curb, which is fine. We don't, they can do that, but they do have to bring that container back onto their property until the next pickup. So it would help us to be able to, and we would communicate this to residents both through e-notices as well as if they did continue to do that practice of having the garbage can at the curb all week, that someone could come to them and say there is an ordinance and educate them. Yeah, we wouldn't summons them right away. we would give them a chance to understand it and then go from there. So I think these are both very good. It allows us to do what we normally do. And just so you know, we do have a requirement of these time frames for having recyclables out, recycling cans out. But we never did it for garbage or rubbish because we have rear yard pickup. And so back in the day, no one brought their garbage to the curb.
So, I'm happy to see this because it's one of the complaints over the years that we've seen so often.
Yeah.
And people kind of sit back and say, we'll get those emails, and it's like, yeah, okay, we'll send them a note and say, please bring your stuff in. And it's one of those, it's a quality of life issue for people. So I'm thrilled.
Okay.
Heather, I just
Yes.
have a question sort of on a separate note with the bulk garbage.
Uh-huh.
Do you know how that's working, or is the word getting out about the 7 items?
It is, and so what they do is they will tag the ones that are over 7, and then so that they don't, it's not a summons, it's just a tag saying we were not going to take it, and then they go out and they explain to the residents why they didn't take it. And so it is working, they are understanding it. They do let them know, listen, if you want to give it to your neighbor and your neighbor is willing to put it out, you can do so, but really it has helped us tremendously. It has helped our crews. It's gotten, less that we're picking up. And I think some people may be considering donation more often to organizations because a lot of the things that are put out on the curb may very well be well used by others in the future.
Okay, thanks.
I was a little confused by the prohibition to put out rubbish containers after 6 a.m. on the date of scheduled collection. It
Right.
sounds like what you're really after is you want to prohibit people leaving the cans out there all day.
We do, but also what happens is sometimes someone wakes up a little later than usual and they'll put their garbage out at 9 a.m. and they've already gone down their street. And then they said, I don't, have a pickup, and it's because they've already been through. And especially, I have to say, especially if the weather is bad and that we are requiring them to bring it to the curb or the end of the driveway, at that point, we want them out there because they try to get through the routes as quickly, safely, but as quickly as possible so that they can get those big trucks off the road because they tend to slide on hills and things like that. Okay. So the next item is the Central Business District speed limit.
So I'm bringing this to everyone as one of these central business district issues that I've kind of been watching for a long time between U-turns, people running stop signs, and people speeding through downtown. And I had a little laundry list of things, but I thought it was a good idea to start here. And I just wanted to throw out into the world any thoughts on reducing the speed limit in what I'll call the central business district proper to 20 miles an hour. I initially started at 15 miles an hour, and Heather said to me, did you ever drive 15 miles an hour? And I say, all the time. So a little bit of a snail's pace, but 20, and I see people like really flying by, and it's dangerous for pedestrians, and I think if we have lower that speed limit just a little, we might calm some of the craziness down downtown.
Why don't we take this to the CBDAC chamber and CSAC and get comments?
So I think CSAC is already,
We didn't talk about reducing the speed limit, but we are concerned with the driving habits and the accidents that have been happening in the CBD, and just people driving and pedestrians walking. They're just not aware. Pedestrians are walking, crossing the street, looking at their phones. People are driving, looking at, who knows what, and not paying attention to what's in front of them. So CSAC is definitely very concerned. I would assume they would be in favor of reducing the speed limit.
And look, I wholeheartedly support this. I think that Pam is absolutely right. We have CBDAC. We have CSAC. We should definitely get their input on this. Let me just say, as someone who for 25 years spends 6 months a year standing on Ridgewood Avenue, believe me, when I first saw this and there was no support for it, I'm going, 20 or 15? 20 or 15? Because it is East Ridgewood Avenue. When I was teaching my kids how to drive, I told them it's the most dangerous road in America because there's so much to see, there's so much distraction. I have concerns about enforcement of this. I have concerns about signage because it is a unique speed limit. So, it needs to be enforced. It needs to be posted clearly. And I certainly want input from our hardworking committees who focus on these things. And pending that input, I completely support this.
So I don't know how quickly you can do this, but the one thing I will also say is that I've asked the village manager to request the village engineer look into reducing the speed limit through the county on Franklin also. This way I agree with you, and I think that if you have different speed limits that becomes confusing, but if you can take that box and make it all 20.
Franklin's a thoroughfare.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I want everyone's input on this. My initial take on it is Franklin's different than East Ridgewood Avenue. And I don't initially, rebuttably, have a problem with Franklin. It's a completely different dynamic. I would, however, like to look into, as a corollary to this, unrelated, something that Lorraine mentioned, that I don't know if there's an ordinance that says that you can't be in a crosswalk and text at the same time, but I believe there should be, because that is the most dangerous thing I have ever seen in my life. Pedestrians believe that they're in a crosswalk, so they are invincible. We all make mistakes as drivers. We're all distracted. And I would like to put that on the village manager's never-ending list of things to discuss and get input from the police and CSAC and everyone else on.
And also have other towns instituted such an ordinance regarding pedestrians and the speed limit. Didn't Glen Rock just recently reduce their speed, or was it Fairlawn?
I don't know.
I don't think it was Glen Rock.
Recently reduced their speed.
I drove through a town I saw there in their main downtown. It was 15 miles an hour. It was different from ever. I can't remember where I was, though, but it was definitely somewhere around here.
Yep.
So, Susan, you were just talking about East Ridgewood Avenue. Are you talking Oak, Walnut, Chestnut, all the cross streets? Mm-hmm. I mean, I would love Franklin to be included in it as well, even though Franklin is a thoroughfare, as Paul said, but people go too fast on Franklin. It's crazy.
So I have to share one of my most horrible experiences was when I stopped on Franklin to allow a pedestrian to cross. And I was watching, the pedestrian was crossing in front of me.
I know where this is going.
Yep, and he just got to the point right at the driver's left side of the corner of the car, and someone was blasting up the left side of me. And in fairness, I don't always know where the horn is on my car because I don't ever use it, but I was yelling to stop, and I must have had my hand out to stop, and it was just so horrible and harrowing, and I to this day, it makes me nervous to think about it. So I think that part of the reason I added Franklin to that is I knew that we were doing an outreach to the county on another road in town that's currently, is it Lake that's 35? Mm-hmm. And we want to get that down to 25 for the folks over there. So I figured that while we were at it, we can just add it all in, and I do think that, yes, I would do all the tree streets, I would call it the central business district proper. I would leave it to, why don't we do this? Why don't we say as quickly as possible, if we can get to the CBDAC and CSAC and maybe just use a map and outline where we think, and this way we can get it done as quickly and efficiently as possible.
I think we have to get a proposal to the committees so they have something to comment on, as opposed to we've got a bunch of different proposals here.
I think I did a map already. Did I have like a little map I already did? Okay, I'll look, because I must have done something preliminarily and then thought, okay, maybe this will be too much. I was thinking, do we go on to a little bit of...
Did you have Dayton on it at all, or just East Ridgewood and
I
Franklin?
think I may have had Dayton and Union, and then underneath the trestle and just to the edge of is that Washington Place and West Ridgewood Ave. So I just wanted to make it like that box of the Central Business District proper. So what I'll do is I will take my little map, I will get it to you guys, and then you can take it to your respective committees, right? Does that make sense?
Okay.
And while that's being done, I think I need to look at the statutory scheme on this, because in New Jersey, speed limits are range from a low of 25 to a maximum of 65. You can go 25 or lower in a school zone, which is permitted. But I think there are some restrictions with regard to regulating speed limits in non-school zones or other areas. So I'll take a look at that and just report back to you with regard to it.
Oh.
All right.
I think
Heather, maybe
we
you
actually
can-
looked at that once before, going back a long time ago, maybe, I don't know how many years ago, and there were some restrictions with regard to it. So I can't recall them exactly, but we'll find out.
Okay. Heather, is it possible to contact other village managers and see if any of those towns have
Yeah, I
done
actually
anything?
have my shared services meeting tomorrow for Northwest Bergen at least. So that's 13 towns, so I can certainly ask there if any of them have lowered theirs.
Great, thank you.
But I can also reach out to others.
So, and I just, because I think U-turns was on my little laundry list, and U-turns are already prohibited, but, I mean, I just yesterday, somebody...
Unless you see a prime parking space on the other side of Ridgewood
No,
Avenue.
it was funny, because just
I think that's the
yesterday-
exception, isn't it?
The
I'm
ex-
joking.
Well,
Just joking.
the
Just
exception, no,
yesterday-
the exception actually is if you are going this way and the space is on the opposite side, if you're like directly across from it, you can turn into that space. However, if you are turning, I'm serious, because I asked the police. So if you're going this way and it's over here, down this way, you can't make the U-turn and go down like 4 spaces. But if it's basically you're turning into the space.
On a parallel parking space, not a diagonal parking space.
You can still do it.
You can do it on East Ridgewood Avenue?
If it's, well, I would hope someone wouldn't do it there, but legally, according to what the police department told me, yes, you can do that.
Let's add this to the list.
Wait, but wait a minute. So I
But
have
we
to
already have
I
no
have to have
U-turns.
some
We
clarification.
need some enforcement, and I've spoken to the police already about enforcement, about the U-turns.
So I just need to ask something, because, so yesterday, the U-turn was on the laundry list before yesterday, but, so yesterday, I'm driving, and this fella decides he's going to go into the diagonal parking space. So he has to come across in front of me, and then he pulls into the diagonal. So is that permissible based on our ordinance? Or is that state law that's technically
State law.
not a U-turn?
It's not a U-turn, is what I was told, because it's directly across. Like, if it's directly across from where you're going, it's not a U-turn, because you're just turning into the space.
So even if you're crossing, and I don't know if is that a double yellow line?
Yeah, I don't think there are double yellow lines
No
like
one
on
can,
Chestnut.
you can't make a U-turn unless you're driving a go-kart. It's got to be a K-turn.
Oh, wait, then you know what happened in a diagonal spot, because you
No,
can't actually do that.
The diagonal
you
spot
gotta,
is
back
different.
in and out
It's
to
the,
make
it's
your
the
car straight.
parallel spaces on East Ridgewood Avenue. You can't make a U-turn and get into a space. Again, you have to have a tricycle.
I wouldn't think you'd have many people trying it on East Ridgewood Avenue.
You do. I've seen it.
It would be the side streets, yeah.
All right, so we'll start with the 20 mile an hour, and then we'll go from there, just to try to implement some improvements and more safety initiatives. Okay.
Okay, so I have the review of next week's meeting. We have several proclamations proclaiming April as Tree Planting Month and April 29th, 2022 as Arbor Day, proclaiming May 1st to 7th, National Drinking Water Week, proclaiming May as Building Safety Month, and proclaiming May as Older Americans Month. We have several fire department awards for the Broad Street Fire, and then also a group effort medical award. We have the public hearing on the establishing a cap bank. We have the 2022 budget hearing. We have the 2022 budget resolutions. One, actually, Mr. Rooney said we are going to have to do an amendment to the budget according to what the state has told him. However, it is something that we can then adopt the budget as amended. We have no introduction of ordinances for Ridgewood Water. We have 2 public hearings, one on their bond ordinance for water utility capital, and the other one amending the fees for water rates and PFAS treatment charges. We have Ridgewood Water resolutions, awarding contract and Title 59 approval for cold water meters and accessories, awarding contract for printing of PFAS notices, award sole source contract for corrosion inhibitor ESC 532, authorizing the change order for Passaic Valley Water Commission pipeline project, design of the guide rail at Diamond Brook, refunding of overpayment of water accounts for 2 accounts. Actually, there are 3, because there was one at the last meeting as well. The ordinances for introduction are amending the no left turns, and then the rubbish, refuse, and recycling for garbage and rubbish containers. Public hearing is our general capital bond ordinance, amending fees for sewer connection fees, amending trees and shrubs, amending the fees for trees and shrubs, amending Chapter 190 for land use and development for the zoning map, amending Chapter 265 vehicles and traffic for permit parking, for extended parking in the Central Business District, for Ridgewood residents in Central Business District and residential zones, and amending Chapter 145 fees for Ridgewood Central Business District parking, 24/7, 365 permit. The next are resolutions, Title 59 approval and award of contract for horticultural supplies, Title 59 approval, and award of contract for road resurfacing and repairs, award of contract under state contract for tri-band radios for the police department. There are actually 2 resolutions for the radios. Award contract under state contract for portable radios, which is right below it. Award contract under state contract, gasoline and diesel fuel. Award contract under state contract, tires and related supplies. Award contract under state contract, parts and supplies for fleet services. Award contract under state contract, computer and server equipment for the Village of Ridgewood and Ridgewood Water, and then another resolution awarding a contract under state contract for computer equipment, awarding a contract under Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Program for the lease of the Ford Explorer for the Health Department, award professional services contract for animal control services and waterfowl management through June 30th, 2022, award professional service contract, animal control services and waterfowl management for 2022 to 2023, authorize an agreement with PSE&G for the installation and direct install for energy-efficient lighting and HVAC equipment in Village Hall. Authorize Ridgewood Division of Fleet Services to negotiate body shop services. This was actually discussed because we had gone out for bid twice, probably in December, and for whatever reason we overlooked it. So we're just going to do this resolution at this point. Declaring property surplus for police vehicles, accepting a grant for the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service Emergency Watershed Protection Program grant, confirm endorsement of community development block grants for Share Inc., one being the air purification system and the other being the kitchen renovation and food preparation, authorizing the release of a surety bond for Onyx Equities LLC for the Benjamin, authorizing an encroachment agreement for 80 Oak Street. The next one is off. Next 2, designating the Valley Hospital as an area in need of redevelopment, appointing a member to the Open Space Committee, and appointing members to Parks, Recreation, and Conservation Board. And grab and go, we'll wait and discuss further on the 27th.
Heather, forgive me, I don't remember the appointments to Open Space and Parks and Rec.
So Open Space are the liaisons, right?
Yeah.
From PRC and
Fields.
These are people who are
Right.
on.
Right.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes. So that's what those are.
Heather, I have a question. Is it because we've had some changes at Project Pride, which I announced tonight. I probably should have talked to you before. We originally had a liaison from the Women Gardeners Club, and she decided it was just going to be too much for her, so she got another person from the Women Gardeners Club to take her place. And then we also had another member that talked to a neighbor, and the neighbor was very interested. She came to one of the meetings. She would like to join.
Okay. So if you could give me those names, then I will put them on, and we could do that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Good.
Okay, that's all I have. So did anyone want any of the resolutions off of the consent agenda?
So, yeah, do we want to pull the two that everyone's asking for more information on?
We're not going to do those
Yeah,
two.
fine, okay, got it.
Those two we're not
Right,
going to do.
Got it, fine, very good.
Any others that you want off the consent? If you do think about it, just let me know by Monday if you want it off the consent so that our numbering is accurate.
Which is that?
Anything off of the consent agenda for a resolution, meaning that instead of just reading it by title, that you want...
No, I didn't see anything other than the ones that you just took off for the,
Right,
for the
okay.
data. No, I'm good.
Okay, I just want, just in case if you look at this over the next couple of days and you say, oh yeah, I don't want, I would prefer to vote on it individually, let me know, okay?
Sure.
Thanks.
Okay, very good. With that, we will go back to public comment, not to exceed 5 minutes per person. Please remember to state your name and address for the record.
So Siobhan Cram-Winograd, 274 Ivy Place. I have three things. So the first is extremely positive that I think the storefront vacancy is great. Can you hear me now, Pam? I think it's long overdue, and I think it will help make our town pretty, and I do agree that future tenants will be found more readily if the stores look more presentable, so I think that's great. My second comment is a little bit of a process question. I'm slightly confused why the grab-and-goes are not moving forward, because you have a split council, and it's a time-sensitive issue. So if you have 2 and 2, and there's no chance of a majority, why can't it move forward? And then the fact-finding about 13 spots, which, not in a mean way, seems relatively small, be done, and the pressure be taken off for a special public meeting. You will have a vote next week, and it just seems like dining corrals came onto the agenda in March, and they were done in a month. This is a super sensitive issue for the business community, and I would hope, when I'm done speaking, you guys could talk about that, that if you're divided with no hopes of anything, why can't it just move forward to next week, where a vote can occur and you don't run into a timing issue? With respect to the grab and go, I wanted to say a couple things. I'm in town frequently. I work in town. I live in town. I walk my dog in town. And I think when you're comparing these spots, there's a couple financial factors that you're not taking into account. One, when we were talking about these spots, they're cash in hand. So 250 is not equatable to 250 gathered from the meters because there's transaction fees. So when you're doing this analysis, 250 to 250 is not apples to apples, not even, because there's no transaction fees on it. The other thing is that, you know, it's not fully utilized, as Pam was saying, but not all days are equal, and definitely not all months. During the summer, you'll see massive amounts of vacancy, and these spots made you guys whole during COVID, where there was no parking. So it really offset you. So I think when you're looking at this, you can't take the maximum, which was what some of the math was doing, and compare it to now. And I think it's sort of the art of doing business, that these people paid for these spots when we really were in big trouble in terms of the utility. And I think it seems incredibly short-sighted and, again, mean-spirited to pull the plug on it. Also, to Michael's problem, if we drive into town, we too don't like to be there long. And I really feel very strongly that these spots, from my inner civil engineer, have promoted better traffic and safety, because a number one contributor to accidents in town is the circling, and we don't have that as much now that we have the parking garage. But if you want people to be in and out quickly, I think a lot of people have that. They love them, they're easy. And lastly, in terms of the economic model, if these businesses are not supported and customers like Michael cannot reach them, people will not use them. And these spaces will be even more of a drain, and we will have another store to put a vacancy in. I think that the things that came out of COVID were very clever. I give you guys a lot of credit for doing them. Emotionally, I feel like it's really mean to pull them right now, and COVID is not over. Hopefully it is. I pray that it is, but it's not. So I would, hope that you guys could address my civic question as to why it can't move forward. It's 13 spots. It seems pretty small. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm imagining the only thing you would change, Matt, would be the date, right? You just change the date and move it forward. And if you guys are going to be divided, it puts you just 1 week closer, and then you don't need to pay for a special meeting, which also costs us money because you have to take out an ad in the paper. So I really hope that you guys can talk about that and maybe add it to the agenda for next week. And I hope when and if you get the facts that you guys account for these math figures and you don't take the economic model of linear and you think about it holistically. You know, it'll generate traffic. You'll lose customers who want the efficiency of it. And that's all I have to say. I really hope you consider keeping them. I love them. I think they're such a great addition to the town.
Thank you.
Rorick Holloway, 1 Franklin Avenue. Two things, parking and then pedestrian safety. As far as parking, back in 1453, when the Ottomans were bombarding and tearing down the walls of Constantinople, half the people were arguing with the other half on the number of angels you can put on the head of a pin. When I hear all this discussion about the grab and go, you're losing the big picture. What I urge you to do, there's something unsustainable about our parking system. You cannot have $1.25 an hour when everybody around you is either 0 or 25 cents an hour. Now, with all the money that's being wasted and spent on pet projects, I urge you to hire a urban planner who can take a look at the whole parking utility from scratch. Do we really need, and I realize there are some problems with the very uneconomical garage that was built by this administration. It's a stone on our neck. I know that. That has to be faced head on. I think our very capable CFO, Bob Rooney, who I have nothing but the highest regard for, could really get the help of the Financial Advisory Committee, get some real brains that we have in Ridgewood to help him think through. Bring in a municipal bond lawyer, bring in a parking person, and see what we can do to do something about the parking. Because I tell you, you can tweak this here, you can tweak this there, it ain't gonna work. Basically, it's unsustainable. Now, one thing, just as an aside, I was very impressed. There's a new store that opened where Jekyll and Hyde used to be. I think it's called Envy. Now, they have a nice triangle in front of the store, which belies what Ms. Knudsen said about the garage being built only for commuters and employees. And they have a nice sign that says, parking available at the Hudson Garage. Why can't we have everybody do that? Why can't have everybody do that? I don't see that happening. I don't see any signs encouraging people to go to the Hudson Street Garage. But I urge you, I realize you don't have any money until you have a pet project and you can find the money. But get someone to really help us think through this whole parking mess in town. It is unsustainable. The second thing is pedestrian safety. I had a very, very unfortunate experience with the Citizen Safety Advisory Committee because I went in with the idea of coming up with a very, very simple solution where we would put a 4-way stop sign at Ridgewood Avenue and Broad Street. I got the runaround. Really, people were insulting with the way they spoke to me as if I was like an idiot. Oh, you can do this because, you can do that because. And it turns out that it's up to Chris Ritteshauser. If he decides he wants to do it, he can do it, get it done tomorrow. And that will stop so many people from rushing down Ridgewood Avenue and then swerving to the left or swerving to the right. Now, the idea of lowering the speed limit to from 25 to 20, I don't think will work. and don't even think of touching Franklin. Now, one thing you could do, and part of the problem we have, is the fact that we never have any police on foot patrol. They're all parked at Van Nest. Why don't we have a couple of cops? We have some really good cops in town. Why can't they walk up and down Ridgewood Avenue and the side streets? And when they see people speeding, have them whistle. Use their whistle to quiet them, to stop them, etc. There's no control. You lower it from 20 to 25, what difference does it make? Now, also with pedestrian safety, as far as Franklin Avenue, and I never get a straight answer. I mean, I'm always asking questions. Oh, yeah, we'll get you the answer. I never get the answer. Basically, when will that street get repaved? I walk there all the time, and when I walk across the street, I'm taking my life into my own hands because I have to look at all the cars coming, and I have to look at the ground to make sure I don't trip, okay? Also with Franklin Avenue, the worst intersection in the country, if not the world, is for a pedestrian, is Franklin Avenue and Maple. When you come to cross the street, you don't even see the lights. You don't even know, so you have to look and wave and look at everybody. I feel like an idiot. This is crazy. We've been talking about it for years. When will you do something about it? When will you get the county to do something about it? And don't give any excuses. Blame it on the county. Blame it on you because you don't do anything about the county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bob Furman, 49 Clinton Avenue. Big turnout. I think there were some great points made tonight. I don't believe that 15 miles an hour, 20, 25 miles an hour means anything if it's not enforced. I was also thinking that possibly a foot patrol, and I know the police have done all kinds of speed studies and everything else throughout the village, but I'm sure they've done pedestrian count numbers as well. I'd like to see a patrolman on foot, maybe in prime time. Maybe it's lunch hours, maybe it's dinner hours, and not just to enforce vehicular stuff, but as Mr. Vaggiano said, to enforce pedestrian stuff. I have never in my life, and I'm pretty freaking old, I have never seen a 150-pound person win in a collision with a 3,000-pound SUV. It just doesn't happen. So people do step off curbs. They don't pay any attention. I agree with Susan. I've stopped often to wait and let people cross, and I'm always worried about the guy behind me who's going to rear end me. And I think that foot patrol person, just one, walking around 2, 3, 4 hours a day will make a big difference because it will educate not just drivers, it will also educate pedestrians. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
So, we'll close public comment, but I just want to answer the Franklin thing. Heather, can we please contact the county because we already did all the engineering work. We did the shared service agreement. We already did that. That's quite some time ago, and now we just kind of haven't heard anything, and it's a terrific plan for Franklin, and it really hits on exactly what you're saying, because we made such an effort and worked so diligently with the county to have a plan in place. So can we just reach out and maybe
I'll see where the update is on the plan.
And maybe we can get an answer, because these are things that we have in place, so we just want to get them done. All right. Very good.
And 2 points, Rurik. First, as to that suggestion about the sign that Envy has. This was brought up in a meeting last week with Joan Groom and Heather Mailander, and they're looking at that and promoting it through the chamber. So that's I think you're right on target on that. And then just a question: that meeting back in 1453, were you actually present at that one? I thought so. I was just checking. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. With that, we're going to take a motion to go into, a resolution to go into closed session.
Be it resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood that the Village Council meet in closed session on April 6, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter on the agenda can be reached, and that said closed session be held in the fourth floor caucus room of Ridgewood Village Hall, 131 North Maple Avenue, Ridgewood, New Jersey. And be it further resolved that the matters to be discussed in closed session are limited to personnel, appointments to boards and committees, legal, update on town garage, Giardini versus Village of Ridgewood, Remington versus Village of Ridgewood, O'Connor versus Village of Ridgewood, and contract negotiation, Pease Library lease. These matters are allowable under NJSA 10:4-12 et sec. And be it further resolved that the minutes of this meeting shall be made available to the general public when such matters have been deemed completed by resolution of the Village Council. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
Have a good night, everyone.
Looks like it could be significant to somebody.